Welcome back to the Zyori podcast. Hello, and thank you for joining us here on February 11th, 2015. It is 10 o'clock on the dot here on the Pacific Coast. We've got a special Zyori podcast here in the wake of DAC 2015, the Dota 2 Asia Championships. We're doing it live. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we're live on Twitch, recording a video, and trying to get in the habit of slowly but surely turning the Zyori podcast into a video podcast, having a nice little YouTube piece to go with each episode, partially for the reach, but also because hey, everybody likes videos, right? And we've got the power, we've got a camera. So I usually don't do it live because I like having the ability to stop and go partway through and say, all right, that sucks. Let me just redo that last little 5-minute part, and just to have that safety net. Sometimes I get on those rants, sometimes I get going, and you got to think twice. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, that kind of thing. We've even got a new little camera angle so that I'm not looking at a camera, so I can kind of forget about it. It's about the audio, it's about the words, it's not about my pretty face, even though you do get to see my pretty face. So we're going to talk pretty much all things DAC. I just wanted to do a big debrief before it all loses my brain and before my brain loses it, before it gets forgotten about, and you're always just a little bit fresh right after events are done and all that kind of stuff. We're gonna have a really long meeting today, so today is basically Zyori podcast and BTS debrief meeting, which I'm sure will probably take 6 hours or so, coming up right after this. Also, just want to talk about China. It was an event. I'm going to try not to look at Twitch chat, even though I know it's there and you guys are asking me questions, but again, it's the nature of the Zyori podcast. Doing it live, yeah. So where to start? Let's just start with general China. It is a crazy place. It's weird being somewhere where people don't really seem to give a shit about much other than slandering the government and tax evasion. That seemed to be the general consensus I got. As long as you're not doing either of those two things, people are pretty okay with it. You can pretty much smoke anywhere. You can pretty much spit anywhere. There were like a bajillion cops and security guards around the venue, but most of them were sleeping. I got like a good overview shot of the venue on one of the days, and there was a security guard in the front, and he was kind of like, I don't think he was asleep, but he was like very clearly unenthused, just kind of sitting there in his chair nodding off. It was weird, like you don't really see security guards sleeping in America very often, but I was told apparently there was a big issue on New Year's Eve of this year, like the American, the non-Chinese New Year on January 1st, and there was some sort of a panic, and like 180 people got killed in Shanghai. They got trampled and died. So they made this law, or this temporary curfew, where at 10 o'clock p.m. any kind of big group public gathering shuts down. So they were saying that the venue ends at 10 o'clock, and that's why sometimes the last final series would have to be played at the hotel, because this law was made after the schedule and venue was booked and all that kind of stuff. So if that hadn't happened, then they would have been able to stay at the venue, and it wouldn't have been a big deal, but this was a new thing to try and stop, panics, because you have a lot of people there. So that was sort of unfortunate for just the nature of the event. You have these really hype matches, and you have these really exciting days, and then all of a sudden the final days of the night have to go and be played at the hotel where there's no live audience. And for us it sucks because there's just, the footage isn't as good. One, you have access to the rooms the same way you have access to the booth on the stage when they're playing, and also there's no crowd, and a lot of what makes it really hype is having that crowd there and being able to interact with people, and just makes kind of a different experience. So that sort of sucked for DAC a little bit, and made the nature event that there were plenty of security guards to go around, but it was you would actually like pass a group of them, like every little doorway, every little checkpoint at the venue, there'd be a group of like 2 or 3 cops or security guards. I'm not really sure exactly how you tell the difference, but security personnel, and more often than not, at least half of them would be like hat over the eyes, passed out in the chair, just like out cold completely. The only time I saw security kind of riled up was there was like, they had the little boxes, I think we took a few pictures of them, where the players were allowed to sit around and kind of converse and I guess theoretically strategize, even though they weren't really soundproof and nobody really felt comfortable doing it. Vici was in there, and I was going to get Starbucks with Charlie, and Charlie saw Black kind of standing in the doorway and kind of went up and kind of like punched him in the back a little bit, and Black was sort of like joking and just like, you Americans. And so like Charlie and I kind of did like the fake running, and we were giggling, and we were like kind of running towards the area where like the metal detector is, the back entrance, and Black comes running through, and he pushes the plastic out of the light, and he's just like, you better Americans. And like, I swear to God, the security guards like made that face like they woke up, just like, it's finally happened. Shit's going down. They're like, we are ready to defend our people. And then Charlie and I started laughing, and they're just like, fucking foreigners. God damn it. And they all just sit back down and slowly fall asleep. It was an adventure. You're walking into the venue. You have to walk through this sea of people that are just like scalping tickets and trying to sell tickets. It's like everything in China is just maximum capitalism. Everything is just if you can if you can make money, if you're doing something illegal but you're making enough money that you can pay off the cops, it's okay. I was told that there was a brothel in the Player Hotel. I'm not sure if that's true, but there apparently was a specific floor number, and if you go up there, you could talk to the girls, and then if you had enough money, you could take them home with you. I didn't dare try it, just hearsay. But like I asked, like, is that legal? Like, how do you do that? It's like, it's not really legal, but pretty much everything revolves around money, from what I understood. And it seems like a lot of the people scalping tickets, there didn't seem to be a super high demand for people buying tickets unless you had a VIP pass on the first day. Those were really valuable. But other than that, they had like a lot of tickets that were left over, and it seemed like people are just more interested in like every event. They're just out there trying to buy low, sell high. They're just trying to work that local ticket economy and be like, all right, let's see what these are worth. Like, it says how much they're worth on the ticket, but you see people out there, it seems like they don't give a shit. They're just like, whatever. And it's like, you think scalping tickets in front of the venue would be an issue, but no one really cares at all. It doesn't, whatever, and a lot of people don't speak English. So like, I got by basically by saying ni hao and xie xie, which is hello and thank you in very terrible American pronunciation. So that it's, mostly through hand gestures. Like when I wanted to go food, I'd say to go, and then I'd go like this and then point at the door, like, a little to go bag, it worked out. I got by for the most part, although I have to say, I'm still having a little bit of gastrointestinal distress. I think I did pretty well. I talked to PPD, and he said that he had food poisoning one night, and I was like, oh yeah, I had the squirts one day. He's like, no. Like, I spent 20 hours laying on the floor of the bathroom, hugging the toilet in terrible pain, just all night long. I'm like, all right, mine wasn't that bad. I'm more like one of the days I had to go back and take a 45-minute kind of siesta in the middle of the day and shit my brains out because something was not sitting right. I did well. I didn't get food poisoning, but I definitely have had some GI issues. And I celebrated my return to America with a big fat cheeseburger, some fries, a large soda. So maybe that's also coming back to haunt me. Our safety food was McDonald's. So that gives you a frame of reference. Like, even when things were good, they were still bad. It's like, okay, well, I know the McDonald's is safe. I know it's not totally going to upset my stomach, but still shitting porridge, dude. Having McDonald's multiple days in a row is not my normal dietary selection. So it was definitely a little bit rough, but it was good. Charlie and Ken both speak some Mandarin, and there were some other people. There was a Red Bull guy, a guy named Rico. He was on the main stage. He blew one of the horns. He's a streamer in China. He's a foreigner, so that's why everybody over there knows him pretty well. But he also speaks some Mandarin. He helped us order food a couple of the days. So the food wasn't too bad. I apparently, from what I was told, if you're in like a more modern area, like somewhere like Shanghai, the food's pretty easy to get around in terms of like most of it's pretty safe, most of it's pretty good. It seems like again with the capitalism thing, you get what you pay for with food in China. If it's expensive, that means it's probably really good and really safe. And if it's like, wow, this a dumpling for 4 yen, huh? Wow, it's less than $1. It's like, yeah, probably because you don't want to know what's in there, and somebody probably pooped on it. That apparently that's what Peter ate. He ate some really cheap dumpling thing. He thought it was Value Town. It's like, well, it was Value Town until you started throwing up, I guess. Ugh. The hot pot was fucking delicious, though. Hot pot was the talk of the town food-wise. Charlie, I think we got it with our whole group, and plus Shiver got it with Charlie. I want to say it was on the first night. Now all my days are starting to run either. It was on the first or second night, and Charlie was all about it. He's like, dude, this is the best hot pot place I've been to. My goal is to get hot pot here as many times as possible. I think he got it at least like 4 or 5 times. He was the hot pot king. We sit down, and he's just like, ordering everything. He's got the little apron on. He's scooping it all into the hot pot. It was a great experience. And we got to go out to dinner on the final night with EG. That was fun. I had enjoyed the celebratory grand finals dinner at Hot Pot. Sumail and Peter did not care for it. They took one bite and pieced out and ended up getting some pizzas. It seems like Sumail pretty much just lived on cheese pizza because he's vegetarian, and he's like next level vegetarian, where it's not just, no, I won't eat, like, I'll pick the meat out of the salad. He's like, it can't be touched by meat. You know, it's a religious thing. So food for him was a little bit of a struggle, I think, and it seemed like cheese pizza was the safe bet, the go-to. Like, I know this is at least a baseline of sustenance, and I mean, he's 15. When I was 15, I could live on cheese pizza too. So no, the food was good. The hot pot was good. I will say that last night of hot pot, I don't know if I just ate too much or if it was just everything catching up with me, but it was a bad poop that night. I said I wasn't going to talk about poop too much, but oh god, I feel the need to report on my bowel movements. I've been spending too much time around Suns fan. That's for damn sure. I don't think we actually uploaded it, but he sent me a message saying he was disappointed by the lack of toilet coverage. So we made a little video of actually, do I have it open here? Maybe we could just show it real quick because it's actually pretty funny. It's probably worth showing here. I think it's unlisted. Let me see. Oh my god, I actually have it open. Let's see. All right, let me full screen this. Let me run it back to the beginning. Let me refresh. We're actually going to watch my toilet review of China. Oh, it's been removed. Never mind. All right, we're not going to watch it. We deleted it. Never mind, guys. You're not going to get to see it. I basically just went in the bathroom and filmed a toilet. It was nothing special, but I also flipped him off. So, anyway, let's talk about the event. The event itself. Overall, I'd say it was pretty good. China does things a little differently. I was told that the general mindset seems to be like, let's do what we need to for this event to not be a total fuck up. But past that, we'll see how it goes. You know, the opening ceremony was a great example. Watching it, having no idea how it was supposed to go, I felt like it was kind of okay. You know, the teams walk on the stage, somebody's up there talking in Chinese, and like, okay, they show some big, you know, hype highlight video. That's cool. But apparently they were supposed to do this whole thing where the spotlight would show on each team, and then the team turns around and they wave at the crowd all starry-eyed, and oh, it's so amazing to be here. And all of a sudden they had to coordinate all these things. The teams had to get to the venue like super early to practice and make sure they had the choreography down, and it just didn't happen. I don't really understand what the issue was, but everybody just kind of stood up at the same time, and then everybody was confused and said, okay, we're walking off the stage, and everybody just left, and they said, okay, fuck it, let's just start the tournament. And that was the opening ceremony. The horns, that was another great thing. They had the little, you know, they came out with these little chests, these little pillows, and they had these horns, and I'm like, oh, these ceremonial horns. We thought they were like real instruments, and they get on stage, and they don't give the guys any kind of a cue, and they're supposed to blow it. Some like dust was supposed to come out of them, and like they're holding them up, and then all of a sudden you just hear the throughout the entire venue, and they're like on stage looking at each other like, fuck, we missed it, fuck it, and they just start blowing it. It was just like, Jesus, guys, this is ugh. So that was interesting. That was fun. Just a good example of the general discoordination. Communication was just difficult in the venue in general. We did not go assuming that the internet would be total ass. We had internet at the hotel, and there was internet in the press area at the venue, but there was no Wi-Fi like in the actual venue itself. So you're watching, if you want to watch the games or be where basically everyone else is, like press were sitting on the main, like in the area in front of the main stage where all those little pillars were. There was like a row of chairs behind that where press and various other people were allowed to sit and take pictures and stuff. And it was kind of difficult not having Wi-Fi there. And the other thing that was frustrating about Wi-Fi in general in China is their general policy is if you're active on a device, you can stay connected on free Wi-Fi. But if you have like a phone or a tablet and you dim it, you know, you hit the button so that the screen's turned off and you go idle. As soon as you go idle, it just automatically disconnects you. And I would imagine just because there's a lot of people, so the more people they have, the more people are on the networks. And this is like a good way to kind of keep the networks from getting bogged down. Like it only gives you access right when you're using it. And that was a big issue because for me, it's like, okay, we're going to communicate on WhatsApp. And I would normally, like in America here, I connect to the Wi-Fi and put my phone in my pocket, and when you message me, my phone will go off. And it took me a little while to realize, oh, every time I turn off my phone, it disconnects me. So you can't just like, you know, be on call. You have to just keep like every hour going to the Wi-Fi, syncing your WhatsApp, spamming your stuff. Okay, I didn't get any messages, close it. So like the nature of that, trying to coordinate interviews across multiple hotels, multiple places in the venue, like managers and players that are in different places, it was very difficult to get people. It's like everyone else has that issue, you know, anyone who doesn't have a Chinese phone. So like in retrospect, like we said next time, like why don't we just buy some Chinese burner phones so we can at least text each other on their network? That was a big communication issue that I just was not counting on having to deal with. Like, oh, it's China. Everyone talks about how good their infrastructure is, and I'm sure the internet itself was actually really good. But you go to the press area and you can see the router, and it's like, you know, just some little piece of shit router you get from Walmart, and there's like whatever, 50 people in there all using the Wi-Fi, and everyone's like, I saw a guy in the press area playing World of Warcraft. You know, there's somebody in there just like, oh, I'm just playing Hearthstone. Oh, let me just load up the stream on my personal computer because watching it on the TV is too much of a struggle. You know, there's people running the stream and doing all sorts of stuff, bogging down the network. And that was why this wasn't just an issue for us, it was an issue for everybody. You know, just uploading stuff in general took forever. We were getting like 100 kbps upload. That is unfathomably slow. Like at the house here, we've got fiber 500. I forgot what it was like to be on like dial-up speeds to upload half-gig videos to YouTube. Like I told my camera guys, like anything you can do within reason to scale these bitches down, like I do it. Like if that means we're shooting in 1080 and cutting in 720, absolutely. Like fuck the 1080p for interviews. We just don't need it. It's not worth the amount of extra time it's going to take to upload these things. It was actually a little bit ridiculous in terms of the internet speed and that stuff. But I will say DAC did a really good job taking care of all the press people, everyone that they flew in as just like, no, we want you to be here, we want you to cover the event. They took really good care of us. You know, they picked me up from the airport, brought me straight to the hotel, helped me get checked in. They had like a little press dinner that first night when I had first arrived, and they bought us food and kind of gave us the lay of the land. I tried for dessert. They brought out raw sugar cane. Like that was a very interesting. So it's like just like a big strip of like sugar, and it's like not processed. So you're supposed to like chew on it and kind of like suck out all the like sugary water, and then like spit out all of the like leftover parts once you kind of chew it out and it becomes dry. So like we're all like, oh, okay, sweet, it's sugar cane. So we're chomping. Everyone's just like. And it's kind of, how are you supposed to swallow this? And I think somebody did swallow. One of the Russians swallowed, or Ukrainians rather, swallowed it. And the press lady was just like, excuse me, yeah, don't swallow, no swallow. Or just like, oh, you spit it out. It's like, oh, okay. It's weird where like you have a lot of dietary options where you're supposed to like nibble on it and then just like spit it out all over the place. Like that's the acceptable way to eat it. And it's just like, oh, okay, I felt like this is what I was supposed to do, but it just feels kind of weird spitting at the dinner table, but I'm into it. I was offered chicken feet, but I didn't try it. I was not that brave on my first day. But they took really good care of us. They gave each of us 3 tickets for every day of the main event. Like we had our backstage passes, but then actual like individual tickets. I think I have one. That's in my bag. I should have grabbed it for this. But like tickets to the actual venue, and I was just like, what am I supposed to do with these? They're like, well, you can give them to your friends. I was like, oh, good. All my friends in Shanghai, let me just call them up real quick and tell them to come on down to the venue. It's like one of those things that's a really nice gesture, but in practice is like, thanks. I mean, all right, I don't know what I'm really supposed to do with these. Do you think I have a lot of Chinese friends? I don't, but thank you for assuming that I have a lot of Chinese friends. I like what's going on here. Watching at the main event itself was an experience. It's really interesting to gauge the difference in expectations across the scenes. Everything was super Chinese bias, and it's okay, but people expect it, which is the big difference, you know. And I made a tweet about that. Like, it's actually really crazy. And I got a lot back. It's like, duh, you're in China. I'm like, yeah, but like when Vici beat when Vici beat EG in the winners finals to secure top 2, the casters literally started a VG chant, just like they were leading the VG. Like, I don't fucking remember any English casters like starting an EG chant at TI4. You know what I mean? Like, there is a very clear difference that they are cheering as well as casting for the Chinese teams against the foreigners. Like, it is very much China versus the foreigners. And I actually learned what the difference between nationalism is and racism is. Racism is when you have a specific group of people that you don't like for some, obscure, ridiculous reason. Like, I don't like black people. That is racism. In China, they don't like anybody that is not from China. You know, that's nationalism. You don't differentiate. You know, it's like, oh, are you from America? Are you from Europe? Well, you're not from China, so get out of my way, pawn scum. That was kind of the vibe I got in terms of like, there's a subtle difference. It's not that they hate individual groups. It's just they really, really like China and all the Chinese players. And I did not realize how popular burning is. It's like, I knew that China was like burning, I knew that burning was like China's one of their most popular players, but I didn't realize that he is like far and above the most, like he is like the Dendi of the East. Burning, like they pick Medusa and the crowd goes, oh, it's gotta be Burning Medusa. Like when they picked Anti-Mage, the crowd was just like, oh, they were like, they cheered louder for the pick of Anti-Mage than they did for like EG getting to the grand finals. That's like the how disproportionate it was. Like ROTK gets 3 last hits in a row on an offlane Tidehunter against Universe's Beastmaster who misses denies, and the crowd's like, oh, he got 3 in a row. Like they love farming. It's actually insane. Like here, you like in the West, you know, we tend to cheer for the big plays. Like, oh yeah, kill him, get the blood. They're like, they see a double stack in the jungle and they start cheering. You know, they see like Burning like do a double stack on Naga and they're like, oh yeah, he's getting 2 at once. Fuck yeah, Burning farm, do it, farm more. Yeah, he's got more creeps. Like that's their thing. It's like they want to see farming. They want to see that slow, methodical sit back, fucking farm it up, hit critical mass. It's very different. It's very different. It's interesting watching the games with somebody like Charlie who understands enough Mandarin to kind of know what they're talking about. And I learned that they call Fear the fossil. Fear is really popular there. Fear and Sumail, far and wide the most popular foreigners. Actually insane. Fear in particular. I guess it's mostly from free-to-play. They all recognize him. But like in terms of signing autographs, those are the 2 that a lot of people really, really wanted to spend time with. And I just thought that was such a good name, the Fossil. It's like, oh, good. And Sumail is like, he is the only foreigner that people were cheering for a lot. Like during the introductions at the grand finals, I think you guys actually had audio for it on the English stream finally for that. But it was like the individual cheers, he was like rivaling Black, you know, and Black is pretty fucking popular there. He was like the guy, like Charlie was telling me that there were like some girls that camped out for hours outside of their room so that they could like take a picture with Sumail, like serious fangirl action of like Sumail and how young he is, and just the whole ridiculousness of this kid breaking out, coming out of nowhere and coming and just wrecking people. That game 3 of the grand finals was like unbelievable. Watching it in the venue, I was getting mad nerd chills. Just being able to watch Charlie's face during that series was an experience in and of itself. Like just getting wrecked like that as Storm mid, like getting ganked once, instantly Shadow Shaman smokes again, ganks him again, finds invisibility rune, ganks him again. Like starting with that terrible of a start and then coming back and not even just like recovering and being like, okay, he's back in the game, but recovering and then just wrecking them so hard and ending that game as one of the most farmed heroes. It's just like disgusting how good that kid is. He has some serious style points, and like he's very introverted. I think some of it is like language barrier. During the EG dinner, I didn't really get to talk to him too much. He didn't stay around that long. But like he'll talk to you, but he's very reserved. And it's interesting that he's so confident, and it's hard to be me. That is such a good fucking line. Oh my god, just like how can, you know, it's like they were trying to set him up for like a lot of the Chinese press. They try to set you up so you can like make those really good kind of like silly but like good PR answers, just like, well, you know, if you work hard, if you dream big, if you stay in school and stay off drugs, you can be like me. One day you can climb to the top of the ladder too. Like opening up for some sort of nice fluffy motivational thing, and Sumail's just like, yeah, it's pretty hard to be me. I'm pretty fucking special. Don't bother trying. Peace. It just drops the mic. You know, it's just like, damn. Like that kid is fucking. He has some brass. That is for goddamn sure. There is no doubt about it. Some of the Chinese press did ask some interesting questions when the EG was the only foreigner to get a press conference, you know, after their success, and obviously after the finals, but before that, when they qualified to actually get to the finals. I think when they eliminated BG, I think, yeah. Anyway, they one of the questions they asked was, are you going to TI5? And the look on Fear's face was just like, Jesus. He was just like, well, if we get invited, that's the plan. It's like, you understand how TI works, right? Like, we're probably going to be invited, so why would we not? Like, nah. We're good. We won DAC. We're not gonna go to TI. Yeah, come on. Like, why would you want to do that? It's only gonna be over $10 million in prizes. Like, yeah, we got China. Just the look on Fear's face was so fucking priceless. I just, oops, messed up my hair again. I don't know. Very, very funny. The EG guys were pretty good sports about it, though. Universe had another really good one. I don't think we caught it on camera, but like the last question, they were just like, so, what were your plans coming into this event? Were you nervous? Were you feeling good? And he was just like, well, we just wanted to come in and do our best and, make America proud. Charlie was off camera just like, Sasha, please, Jesus Christ. It was good. It was fun, but it's just a very different environment where they come down and they sit you down in the little press area and there's cameras going like crazy. The Chinese press are a different beast altogether. They're very they're lacking in general boundaries, I suppose you could say. When Secret was not eliminated, I guess when Secret was knocked down to the lower bracket, I think it was, they already had like cameras and microphones on in their little player booth that's supposed to be locked in their private space, like ready and waiting when they came back off the main stage. Like they tried to go into the bathroom and like the cameras like following them into the bathroom. Cyborg Matt's like literally like elbowing people, like just like pushing these little Chinese people out of the way, just like parting the seas, like, how about you get the fuck out my way, like trying to box out cameras so his players can take a fucking piss. It's really like really next level, and it seems like they, like, since I guess Secrets were like kind of like the big team kind of favorites, they were trying to like capture the foreigners, upset, and get it on camera and all this kind of stuff. But they know no boundaries, and it was a little bit intense. On the final night, Shiva and I ended up on the bus that EG was on, and it was like all of EG was in the back with Charlie, and then there were probably like 5 or 6 rows of empty seats, and then one of their translators, Corey, was there, and then Shiva and I got on the bus, and we were sitting there, and we were just like, all right, well, it goes like the hotel that most of the talent were at was at. Is that the Regal Shanghai Southeast Asia Hotel, something like that. It's the hotel that is literally inside of the giant Olympic stadium they built. It has like the little rings on it, so it's like right across from the venue where we were at. So we were staying like right across the street, so you could walk back and forth to the main event. But all the players were staying at the hotel that they were at for the group stage, where the computers were and the practice area was. So it was like maybe a 20-minute cab ride, something like that, across town, depending on traffic. So the plan was like, well, everyone's going to the same place. Like, we were going to go eat around there, and then that was kind of like the hangout point. The last night we were hanging out in Conrad's room, playing Smash, getting a little drinking, all that kind of stuff. So we're on the bus, and it's about to leave, and this Chinese guy gets on the bus and says, this bus is not for press. I'm not going to do my Chinese accent. This bus is not for press. It's like, this bus is for the winners. And he's looking at us like, motherfuckers, you snuck on the goddamn foreigners sneaking on the victory bus. Like, what do you think this is? Get your own goddamn bus, get off EG's bus, son. And like Charlie's sitting in the back just like, yeah, whatever. And then Allie's just like, no, it's okay, dude, they can stay, like, they're cool. And the guy's like, you sure? Are you positive? And Allie's like, yeah, I mean, they're not bothering anybody, they're just sitting there. And the guy's just like, okay, you're the boss, and just walks off the bus. And then the bus leaves and we go to the hotel. And I'm just like, wow, I sort of see why they're like serious about making sure like the winners are not like, pushed by press, but at the same time, like, we weren't even talking to them. We weren't even sitting we were like purposefully giving them space to make sure we weren't a bother, because we were just trying to hitch a ride. Like, I don't think the Chinese media have that kind of a just filter of just like, if they have that opportunity, they're going to jump on it. There's no just like, oh, we can be normal people and sit here and not put a microphone in their face while they're hanging out. And I was just like, thank you, Curtis. You are a gentleman and a scholar. You have just allowed us to get a free ride back to the hotel, and for that, I thank you, good sir. Hot pot's on me. Actually, no, it's on you, because you just won a fuckload of money. But still, I thank you, good sir. It was an adventure. It was an adventure for sure. So about the bias thing, it's sort of crazy how different it is, and it made me just like, it helped reset my perspective a little bit. Like, the most bias any of my colleague casters at BTS have ever been in a cast does not even come close to what it was like at the venue, with the way they kind of cheer for the Chinese teams, even just the way they control the camera. They're much more interested in the Chinese players. There's not an equal amount of time showing the carries. They're looking at Burning a lot more. They're looking at ROTK a lot more. Big God was by far the home court heroes the team that everyone was excited about, the all-star lineup, all that kind of stuff. ROTK didn't talk to me. I was a little sad. Maybe he didn't recognize me post-haircut. At TI4, I crossed paths with him, and he stopped and shook my hand and talked to me for a little bit, and I was thinking, well, maybe it's just he's the hero here. He can't be caught talking to foreigners here on home court soil. But I wasn't upset, just a little. I like ROTK. I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to shake his hand, get a little picture going. But, there was definitely a degree of Chinese players could hear the Chinese casters. I mean, Ice said that in the quick little interview I got with him. He said he could hear smokes and all sorts of stuff. We're going to talk about the whole blame wagon thing, the whole, earphone cheating thing coming up soon, but I don't want to get there quite yet. But it's just crazy to think about how different the expectations are. Where here in the West, it's like casters are expected to be completely non-biased and, just present the game the way it is, objectively based on who's winning, not because of any favoritism or anything like that. And here it's like, if you're not cheering for the Chinese team, you're fucking weird. Like, the casters are expected to hype up China and do all that kind of stuff. And the observer they had was unbelievably terrible. I don't understand how that has not come. I guess you guys being the West, didn't watch the Chinese stream since you're watching the English stream, but the camera control was actually the worst. This is a very true non-hyperbolic statement. The worst camera control I've ever done was better than the average game that they did at the venue. I mean, missing kills left and right. A fight breaks out, somebody moves off screen, and they just don't follow it. Missing kills that are right next to the camera. Just what are you looking at right now? Who is controlling this camera? I don't know if they had dedicated obs or if it was the casters, but it was consistently awful. I don't know what it was. I was joking with Matthias. I was just like, dude, tell them that I am here and I can do dedicated obs because this is embarrassing. Oh god, I don't know how they're the standard for China camera control, I guess, is not quite the same. Maybe there was a big shitstorm about it on S Gamer. I have really no idea. But yeah, it was also interesting. So JJ was there. I don't know if there was any coverage, any feed of the little counts. I don't know. I missed it. I wanted to see what kind of music it was like. Apparently, he played when we were in the press area, and we missed the whole thing. And we were in the press area, just kind of sitting there, hanging out. And we had a few people on laptops working on stuff. And the Chinese folks that were there told us that we had to leave. And we were showing them our badges, no, we're media. This is the media room. This is the designated place for us to go. Why do we need to leave? And they basically said, well, we're about to do some stuff that doesn't really concern you. We're just I don't really know what that means. So one of our guys that was somewhat bilingual talked to the guy and basically promised him that we would be quiet and stay out of the way and we wouldn't make a bother. And as it turns out, JJ was coming down to do his press interview. He was doing his little press statement thing. Apparently, they're putting in a TA set that's JJ themed. So he's getting his own set, and he's a little thin, little stylish dude. Looks kind of posh or whatever. So I guess they thought that the foreigners were gonna come and start mobbing JJ. Maybe they thought we were gonna try and touch him. I don't know what they thought we were gonna do, but they did not like having foreigners in the space of JJ. He had a whole entourage. They turned on the heat when he came in. They did all they made sure he had a Red Bull juice. That's what they call it. It's not carbonated, so it's not Red Bull. It's Red Bull juice, the vitamin functional drink. Jesus. So that was an experience. They tried to kick all the white people out of the press area, and then after he left, they were like, "Okay, it's good now." And I was just like, exactly what we did while JJ was in there is exactly what we wanted to do anyway. Sit quietly in the corner and work on our laptops. I really don't know what they were expecting. Just that we would see JJ and go crazy. Everyone in chat saying, who the fuck is JJ? Good question. Apparently JJ is a popular Chinese pop star. I'm just going to Google JJ Chinese pop star. Here you go. This is probably it. JJ Lin. I have no idea what kind of music it is. Oh, yeah, that's him. I saw this guy. I walked right by JJ. There you go. That's JJ. So I guess he's pretty popular. I don't know. I don't know how many followers he has. Genre, Mandarin pop. He's a pop artist. He looks like he's won a lot of medals. JJ Lin. So that was exciting. I was in the presence of JJ. He graced us with his presence in the press area. Yeah, it was good. It was sorry, I gotta Google it up here. Yeah. So that was fun. That was exciting. That was the only little run-in that we had that we had in terms of. Whoops, that was a bad link. It was very interesting. So pressing forward here, I do want to talk about this BlameGate thing a little. Let me go through my day 2 notes. And oh yeah, this is just a funny quote that one of the casters said after Secret lost on that first day. One of the casters said, "I think Arteezy needs a tissue. Somebody get him one." Yeah, in my notes I just say caster bias is real. Apparently they were talking a little bit of shit about Sumail and his parents, just like because he's so young, and like saying kind of like, you know, where are your parents letting you do nothing but play Dota since you're so young? You know, that kind of stuff. And the other thing, I learned about the Asian girl flutter clap. This is one of the cutest things I've ever seen. One of the translators, I think it was Oling actually. I think she was the first one I saw doing it, but I saw a lot of people doing this where when like she was cheering for Secret, and anytime they would get a kill, she'd do that. And it was the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. It's just the cute little, you hold your palms together and just, yay, oh, they got a kill, yay. Like, it's like you can't even hear it, but it's just like that motion. You got to shrug up the shoulders. It was, oh, God, I melted like a little piece of candy. It was so fucking adorable. I love it. I just love it. You know, oh, yeah. She told me that she liked Zy, and I said, yeah, he's very attractive. And she said, yes, and very young. I was like, yeah, that's true. He is very young. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, all the custom games and stuff too. I'm really glad I had that little impromptu interview with Ice. We wanted to do a little bit more of that, but there were so many like press people like in the way that most players were not really interested in doing that. It just sort of happened randomly. I was talking to Black, and then Ice kind of just came up and started talking to me, and there was a camera there. He's like, "So we're doing an interview now?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." You know, but. I like that he talked about the custom games and the all-star match and all this stuff, and a lot of the players were supposed to do it and just straight turned it down. They were upset with the organization and various other things and all this kind of stuff, and they just sort of felt like it was a waste of time. And I feel bad for Dendy because he always gets roped into that shit, and he's such a good he's such a good sport, and he's so fucking good at it. He's so good at just like knowing what the crowd wants and being very minimalist about it, and just, you know, saying little words like when they asked him, I think we got footage of it that's been uploaded to YouTube, when it was the 1v1, like him and Mushi in the grand finals, and they had a little back and forth, and they're like, all right, Dendy, say something that will scare Mushi, and Dendy just goes, boo. You know, like little things like that are just very classic Dendy, where it's very positive but also very minimalist. He's really good with the faces and, you know, being animated, and he's just a good sport about it. But most other players are just not really interested in doing that shit, you know, and not because it's not because they don't want to do fan service, and it's not because they, you know, are really like, my time's so valuable and this is just a waste, but it's more like, we're in a big tournament right now, and this is really just a distraction. This is taking away from time that we could be theory crafting, we could be practicing, or I can just be simply resting and preparing, you know, my mind and clearing my brain for the huge amount of stress that's about to come for these matches where there's an ass load of money on the line, you know, like life-changing money is on the line, you know. So I see where they're coming from, and frankly, I think a lot of these kind of like stretch goal, like 1v1 all-star like special matchups they've kind of run their course. I think it's cool. I see why fans like it, but they're becoming a little bit homogenous, a little one and the same, and I think we're at the point now where players they've been good sports about it, and now they're pretty fucking tired of it. You know, I think the Summit was a nice middle ground because we had like $1,000 per player prize pool for all that special stuff we did, you know, like it was a $5,000 prize for the all-star match, so, and it was a cash prize too, like handed them cash money, so it's like there's an extra incentive. At least they walk out with a little bit of money if they win. It makes it a little more fun and worth their time. But like I said to Daryl, like the best time to do it is before the event, because that's when, you know, stuff isn't on the line, nobody's sad yet, and I see why a lot of players turned it down. It was sort of unfortunate. And just glancing at my note here, so I noticed another weird thing, that in China, folks don't like to drink out of cans. They give you straws everywhere. If you order a soda, like a can of soda, if you don't get a straw, that's weird. If you don't take a straw, like the last time before we went to the airport, Shiva and I got like this. It was like this wok place where you go and it's kind of like Subway. You point at all the stuff you want, they put it in a big bowl, and then they they cook it and put it in this big bowl, and then you get a little bowl of rice. I also learned that you don't want to eat off a plate. If you're ever in China, the plates are not for eating. The plates are for trash. So like they actually eat everything out of bowls. If you're at a restaurant and you're on the table, you're sitting at the table, and there's a bowl and there's a plate, you're supposed to use the bowl for your food and put the bowl on the plate like a little saucer, and then use the plate as like sort of just a trash receptacle and like just something to kind of hold all of your shit together. There's a good chance the plate is not very clean. So if you're putting food on the plate and then eat, you don't want to lick the plates. Let me put it that way. I did not learn that until very late into my trip. Maybe that's why I'm having gastrointestinal issues. But avoid the plates like the plague. They just assume that you're gonna eat out of bowls. But it's the same thing with cans. Like, we ordered cans of soda, and we were, like, happy with the cans, and the lady's, like, grabbing my shoulder, just, like, pointing at the straws, like, no, motherfucker, you want a straw. Like, you don't want to know where that can has been. Take a goddamn straw. And what's weirder on top of that is straws are not wrapped in plastic or paper. It's just a big bundle of straws. So I'm just thinking, like, well, I appreciate the gesture of you giving me a straw, but this straw has not been isolated from the germs of all of the people that have reached in to grab all of the other straws. And the nature of straws is that they're all like the same level. So you have to kind of like bumble around and touch a bunch of them to grab one, you know, unless you're very tactful and like, you know, nobody's being that tactful when they're talking about a fucking straw. So it's just like one of those weird germ things where it's like, well, that can is probably pretty gross. These straws are a little bit less gross, but the straws are still probably pretty gross too. You just have to not really process germs. Same with the bathroom. You go into the bathroom, and there's, like, a lot of people smoking cigarettes. That's, like, a thing. You go to the bathroom to smoke cigarettes. And I asked some people about it, and they said, basically, the idea of taking a cigarette break, like a break specifically to go outside and smoke, can be interpreted as lazy. Like, you're using the word, I'm taking a break right now. And if you say instead, I need to go to the bathroom, and then while you're in the bathroom, it's just implied you're going to linger around for a few extra minutes to finish your cigarette, that is considered appropriate. So there's this kind of just weird cultural thing where if people are in the venue and they want to smoke a cigarette and they don't want to go outside, they just go into the bathroom, whether they have to piss or not. So, like, you got to poop, and you go into the bathroom, and there's just, like, 10 dudes looking at you smoking cigarettes. And, like, there's no ventilation in the bathroom. Like, you walk in, and it's just, like, the whole bathroom is just a cloud of smoke. So you're just, like, hotboxing the bathroom with cigarettes constantly. It's a little strange. Same as where they have, you know, toilets and a sink, but there's no soap, and there's no hand towels or hand dryer or anything. So, like, I went in there with Rico, and I'm just, like, you know, like, we went to the bathroom, we both pissed, and then he's, like, gets his hands wet, and then just turns on the floor. I'm just like, so there's no soap here? What's the point? And he's just like, no. I'm like, well, what's the point of the water? He's just like, it does more than nothing. I'm just like, okay. So there's sort of like, he's just like, you get credit for attempting to wash your hands, even though you don't really do much washing and you have to dry them on your pants. Like, I don't okay. Thanks. It's stuff like that where there's sort of like a minimal effort to care about germs, but when you really think about it, like, is this really stopping me from ingesting any kind of terrible germs that I would have touched or otherwise? Like, you know, whenever I'm traveling or in a foreign place, my general rule of thumb is, like, try to wash your hands before you eat. That's, like, a good habit to be in regardless, you know, but if you're in your own space, your own germs, it's not quite as big of a deal. But when you're, like, in another country, in somebody else's space, like, it's just a good habit to wash your hands before you eat, especially if you're going to be eating anything with your hands. It's a good way to just avoid being sick, right? When I'm in a foreign place, I really try to do that. And in China, I was just like, I am going to use utensils for everything. Okay, luckily I'm pretty good with chopsticks. So I was just like, all right, I'm just going to use my chopsticks were sealed. That is one thing that was always sealed. Like, they always come in little plastic, or they're like nice ones that have been washed and stuff. So chopsticks always felt very safe. But forks, fucking forget about it. Anything that is like foreigner exclusive, I would be a little weary of. That's for damn sure. All right, let me look at my day 3 notes. I think it's about time to talk about the blame wagon here. Oh, good old perfect world. The maglev. Oh, I didn't take the maglev. I was a little sad. That's like their super fast train. One of the LGD guys was telling me about it. And, you know, here's one last little funny just tidbit. One aside I had. So Starbucks. They have a Starbucks there. It was like attached to the venue, all this kind of stuff. And Starbucks is like priced the same it is in America. So relative to most other foods in China, it's like it's very expensive. So, tends to be like wealthier people or foreigners that go in there and eat it, or mostly drinks, but they also serve a little bit of food. And I didn't realize this, but apparently on the cups, you know, they normally ask for your name. If you're a foreigner, they just write foreigner on it. And I know this because Shiva went in there, and she was like, she got a drink, and then they didn't give her a receipt, and like they're waiting, and she's waiting, and some random person that was also getting a drink pointed to it and said, she was like, wait, and said, oh, I think that's yours. And she was like, how do you know? She's like, because it says foreigner on it. Like, not somebody that worked there, just some random other, like, Chinese person buying a coffee was just like, oh, yeah, Shiver, you're white. That coffee says whitey on it. It's probably yours. So she took it, and it actually was her drink. So that's actually a thing. They just, foreigner. Yeah, they'll figure it out, won't they? On the last day, Shiva and I, we took a taxi to the airport together. So like on the last day, we were there were 3 buses that left, 7 a.m., 1 p.m., and 8 p.m. Most people took the 7 or 1. I had like an 8:30 flight. Hers was at 11. So we kind of buddied around all day and then ended up taking a taxi over at like 5 o'clock. So before we went out to eat, we're in the hotel. We're using the Wi-Fi, trying to figure out where we're going to go. And we're sitting in 2 chairs, and this Chinese guy just comes up to us and like comes in between us and says, hello, lady. I noticed you are very tall. I wonder, where are you from? And Shiver's just like, the Netherlands. And he's like, oh. And he goes on to tell her that he was a professor for a few semesters at some university in the Netherlands that she had heard of. And he's kind of going back and forth. And then he says, oh, how long are you staying? And she's like, well, we're leaving for the airport in a couple hours. He goes, oh, okay. And he's just like, the best way to learn Chinese is to have a Chinese boyfriend. And Shiver's face was just like, oh, God, dude. That is way too aggressive. You need to back off. And the guy was just like, okay, see you later. Just walked away and gets on the elevator. Just like, what an opener. Just like, hello, lady. I noticed you are very tall. It's just like, I think I'm going to try that one, Shiver. I think next time I see a tall girl, I'm just going to say, fuck it. Just, I noticed you were tall. And I like tall ones. Oh my God. That shit was just like, it was, the way he just went about it was so fucking hysterical. I really just, it cracked me up. It cracked me up a lot. I also just thought it was like, I said to her, I was just like, from his perspective, like, it seems somewhat safe to assume that we might be together. Like 2 white people in China, like there were not a lot of other foreigners there. Like, that was just very bold to come in, girl and a guy sitting next to each other, talking to each other, just, hello, lady. The best way to learn Chinese is to have a Chinese boyfriend, right? It's just like, wow, man, you are really, really brave. Few fucks were given there. I appreciate that. Like, there's, whatever, you do you. I was sitting there giggling the whole time. I didn't even interject. I was just sitting there just like, I can't believe this is actually happening right now. Like, this is okay. This is a thing. This is going down. Oh my, yeah. The foreigner thing was pretty funny with the Starbucks. That was nice. So anyway, let's talk about this whole BlameGate thing. The headphones, the alleged cheating. All this kind of stuff. A little suspect, I will say. The whole thing ended up being a bit of a shitstorm. Basically, in the venue, they had camera shots. They had like that classic, like you have all the players in a row in the booth, and then you have kind of one camera shot that's in that corner. So like the person that's right in front of it is like really big on the screen. Then you can still kind of get that overview shot of the other 4 players that are in the booth. It's like the same setup they have at like ESL or basically any other tournament, where you don't have individual face cameras. So Burning was in the seat that is closest to the camera. So he's got like, the big head. He's very close. You can see what he's doing in pretty good detail. And the headphone that he had closest to the camera, I have headphones right here, and I'm sure most of you probably saw the pictures, know what I'm talking about, but kind of had it like half off, kind of like this, and was sitting this way. So it was very clear on camera that you could see, oh, okay, his headphone is like kind of half off. So Shiver and Ina were the ones that first noticed it. And basically what they did was just came to Matthias, who works for Huamao, and said, how do we, I don't know what's going on here, but this seems a little funky. Like, they have noise canceling headphones. The whole point is you're supposed to wear them to cancel the noise. Like, you don't take them off when the match is live. Like, I thought that was the rule. Want to make sure this is okay. Whatever. Did not trying to make a big PR scene, but just like, I want to make sure this is brought to someone's attention in just, good faith of integrity for the tournament. And of course, Matthias was like, oh, yeah, that's inappropriate. So he goes through the proper channels, contacts some of the higher-ups at Perfect World or whatever, the people on the main stage, and they go and they tell the admin to tell Burning to fix the headset. So where things get a little hairy, where people have been asking me, like, what's the take on this? So he fixed the one that was on camera, and then about 10 seconds later, shifted the one that was off camera a little bit half off his ears. And I was just kind of like, well, that's a little okay. So again, Matthias go through the whole rigmarole, and they tell him to fix it again. And that was, to me, the like, you've already been told once, dude. I don't understand what the issue is here. Put the fucking headset on. And a lot of people were talking about, I talked to Dendy about it, and right away, Dendy said, I'm sure they weren't cheating. Like, they don't need to. There's no reason to. Everyone here, they're high-integrity players. Like, there's no reason to assume they were cheating unless you have very specific damning evidence that they absolutely were. And it's like, they could probably hear the casters a little bit anyway. They took their headsets off during a pause, which seemed to be sort of just a miscommunication with the admins in general. It seemed like they definitely heard that there was a smoke inbound during that pause when they had their headsets off, which was just sort of unfortunate. The Rave guys handled it very well, did not accuse them of anything. And the thing of that was so silly, why it got so incendiary, is like, Ina's tweet was not really accusing them of cheating. She was just saying, like, this seems a little weird to me. I don't think this is the right way to be wearing your headset in the booth. Obviously, that's like an incendiary thing. And she asked me, like, do you think I did something wrong by posting this? And I was like, well, no, you didn't do anything like immoral. You didn't do anything like actually, you didn't rip somebody off. You didn't like, say burning was cheating per se, but like, the argument of just like, well, I'm just putting this out there and you guys think of it what you will. You have to recognize that, like, when you sort of dangle that low-hanging fruit in front of people like that, I'm making like the testicle thing here, when you dangle that low-hanging fruit, like, the community is always going to assume like the worst case thing and jump on it and turn it into a shitstorm like they did. So it's like one of those things where you didn't really do anything wrong, but you also probably didn't really handle this situation that well. And it ended up, being a big shitstorm. And I felt really bad for Shiver, who got roped into it, because there was a lot of stuff on there. I was like, well, Shiver took the pictures. It's like, Shiver didn't really do anything. She basically just noticed it and internally brought attention to it to the proper channels. She didn't want to make a shitstorm. She didn't want to do anything public, and she got a lot of like negative hate. I saw her Twitter feed; it was blown up with all this, like, called her a racist and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I didn't really do anything, guys. I just wanted him to put his headset on, I swear. So the whole thing was kind of stupid and kind of ridiculous. I think the big issue I have with the Big God side of it is like their argument of just like, well, we don't need to cheat, so why would we? It's like, well, that's not really a defense. I mean, most teams don't really need to cheat, but that isn't like evidence to suggest that you like weren't. That's just sort of like a nice little soundbite. And there is a lot to be said for those headsets being very uncomfortable. I know how uncomfortable regular headsets are for long periods. I've tried on the helicopter ones before, and I know they're uncomfortable for long periods. When you're in a long best-of-3 series and you have it on, it crunches your head. They're designed to be like tight so that sound doesn't leak through. They definitely give you a headache. Like, they're definitely not comfortable, and there's definitely incentive for like players to take them off just based on comfort. I totally understand that, and I think that's totally legit in terms of like they are painful and will give you a headache for long periods. But at the same time, I feel like there is a degree of like, when you're in the booth, there is an understanding that casters are talking even during pauses, and you do not take your headset off until you are told by admins or there's been a very clear like GG and players are done. Like, it's like one of those things, like when you take your headset off, the game is done. Like, that is, you'll see teams sometimes, like, you can tell when a team's about to GG because they'll take their headsets off sometimes like maybe 10 seconds before they actually type the GG or before the throne dies. That's okay, because it's like you're saying, by doing that, you're saying this game is over, headsets off, we haven't typed GG yet, but we're about to. If the admin ruled this game is over because you took off your headset, we're okay with it. That's kind of the general rule of thumb. So I would, the phrase I would use is it was distasteful. I think the players should have definitely been more conscious about keeping their headsets on, especially knowing that you're in China, the casters are talking. Like, when in doubt, keep them bitches on. I certainly don't think Big God were like intentionally cheating. I don't think there was some like, super, intricate cheating plan where I was like, okay, I'm going to take mine off a little bit, you take yours off a little bit, we'll see if we can connect the dots here, see what they're saying, like, all right, let's try to get as much, like, I don't think it was like that. I don't think it was this big malicious, like, yeah, we really need to cheat, but I do think it was a little distasteful and just a little, like, maybe there was a degree of, like, this is not, even if it's not to cheat, but just, like, this headset's uncomfortable, I want to take it off, let's see what we can get away with, and, like, let's see if I can get a little more comfortable here. All that kind of stuff. It's like, they know the rules. They know what's going on. I don't know that much. I can't understand what people were saying in Mandarin, but just as a spectator, as a third party, just sitting there watching, I thought it was a little bit strange that after they were told to fix it, first thing they do is just move the other ear off. That feels a little weird to me, but I don't know all the circumstances. I have no idea what they were told. I have no idea what the admin said to them. Maybe the admin just said, maybe the admin told him to switch years. I have absolutely no idea. So many things get lost in translation when you go that far down the road. It's like, I heard what Shiva and Ina said, but they told somebody who told somebody who told somebody who told the admin who told the players. At that point, maybe somebody said just switch it and get the ear that's off camera. I have no idea. Maybe that's what they were instructed to do. There is also a degree of there's undoubtedly a lot of racism in Southeast Asia in general. Across the different areas. The big home court heroes losing to a Pinoy team. I could see why someone, a staff member or someone somewhere in that communication chain could be like, this could be bad for China if we get beaten by the Pinoy dogs. I could see that being a very real possibility. So not saying that like the players were actually cheating, but maybe they were told to do something that was inappropriate by someone else. Again, it kind of goes back to that nationalism thing a little bit. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just sort of throwing darts right now in terms of things that could have been as to why Burning may have just shifted his headset instead of putting it on absolutely properly. And again, the video feed that we have is very specific to being able, I point out Burning because he's the one that you could actually see. Everyone else, you couldn't really see him on the camera. So I don't know what their headphones looked like. I don't know what the situation was. So, all things considered, to round out this conversation about the blame wagon, shit was definitely way blown out of proportion. When I was reading that first thread that was on the front page, the thing that bothered me about it was very obvious that the guy on Reddit that made that post that was like trying to put it all together was not interested in the integrity of the tournament. He was just interested in getting some attention and pushing as much drama as possible. Once I started reading the thread that like people accusing Ice of not having integrity or cheating because he said in the interview that I did with him that he could hear the casters and that he didn't report it properly, and that like makes him as bad as like the cheaters on PG. I'm just like, this thread has already spiraled completely out of control. Like, that is so ridiculously just far off to sort of look at what Daryl was saying and sort of like accuse him of being a cheater. It's like, it's not his fault that the soundproof booths are not soundproof. Like, that's not his job as a player. Like, obviously it was reported and he said it. He said it in an interview that he knew would be posted live on the internet. It's not like it was some secret, just like, oh, I can hear the casters, but sure, don't tell anybody, Zyori, it's a secret. Like, he said that to the camera knowing that, like, this tournament's bullshit and I want to spread the word of the things that aren't fair in this tournament. That was, like, the reason he said that to the camera. He's not a dumb guy. He knows what he's saying, and he knows that that's going to be a soundbite that people are going to latch onto. He's not just saying that to, like, be a troll. He's saying that because, like, that's his way of getting it out there and making it public knowledge so people know it. So it's just the whole thing was a shitstorm, and I felt bad for Ina and Shiva, and the whole thing blew up. I thought the blog that Velat wrote was kind of funny. Here, I'll post it in chat right now. It was very typical of Velat. Like, I saw Velat once on Reddit, just like, can you please stop acting like retards? So that's the way he likes to go about his PR, very aggressive, all that kind of stuff. I think I shared it on my Facebook page. Even though, like, his tone and the way he went about this is not the way I would have gone about it, but I think the general point that he's making is good, saying that, like, we didn't accuse anyone of cheating. We were simply pointing out that this looks a little bit strange, and, make of it what you will. Unfortunately, Velat assumes, he sort of looks for the best in people. He assumes that you can post that stuff and the community's going to read it and not go on a total shitstorm. As I said to Ina, like, you just have to recognize that people will just go for low-hanging fruit, and a lot of people in the Western community, unfortunately, correlate Reddit upvotes with truth. So if they go into a thread and they read the top 5 most upvoted comments, more often than not, your average person looks at that as, oh, this has been upvoted because people agree with it, or because it's right, or because this has been vetted to some degree. And with something like this, where there isn't a lot of evidence and a lot of it's hearsay and there's all this stuff going around, a lot of what people read is just bullshit. And then people use those as a foundation for a new argument, like, oh, well, if Ice knew this and he didn't report that, then ipso de facto, he's a cheater too. It's like, you guys are just so far wrong. I didn't even read that whole thread. I just gave up after reading like 5 or 6 comments of just, this is terrible. This is disgusting. This is the reason Ice Frog does not talk to our community. Like, I understand now why Ice Frog posts on Weibo sometimes and does not post on Reddit or any other kind of Western community site. I feel like I kind of get it a little bit, because the Chinese community does not react to things in that same way, where everyone's like, trying to find the little piece of drama and blow it up and get their little soundbite and get it upvoted on Reddit. Like, I see why he avoids that, because it's just a shitstorm, even like he made a post on Weibo, or it was Weibo, while we were there, like that whole thing with that girl accusing Hipovic of like yelling at her and doing all this stuff. Apparently in China there's this thing, there's a lot of girls that just like want their time in the spotlight and will do kind of anything to get it, and I think that whole thing was really blown out of proportion. But Ice Frog actually went and posted on his official account and said like, hey, don't worry, everything's cool, this is fine. And if he did that on a Western site, I think people would just fucking their brains would melt. They would fucking implode. And I just get it a little bit, and it makes me kind of sad that like when something like that happens and the Reddit community is just it sort of just reflecting poorly in general, the way that situation was handled on both sides, the way Eno went about sort of making an incendiary tweet, then also the way it was interpreted and blown up and just taken to this level that was just that's the only sound, the only sound that I can make for it. It's just it's all ugh. So that's my 2 cents. That's all I can really report. I have no damning evidence, foolproof one way or another. Things are a little mucky, but all things considered, I don't think there was this big conspiracy whatsoever. It was really nice talking to the Rave guys. If you didn't see it, I did a good interview with Ninja Boogie. Hotbid got a lot of good content as well, so check out the BTS YouTube channel. If you haven't, the Ninja Boogie interview was really nice. So I actually talked to him about like his rage in that one game. Like when we did, Shannon and I did that podcast, that was the Rave game when he was like yelling at the admins and stuff. And he talked about it and basically said, yeah, I was frustrated, I was penalized, and it was just an insightful interview. I really enjoyed it. I was pretty proud of the content that I pulled out of that particular interview. But that pretty much wraps up this installation of the Zyori podcast. I believe this is Zyori podcast number 62. It's sad that I've got to pull up my own website to check. But yes, indeed it is. This is the DAC special. Like I said, I'm planning on doing some more video podcasts a little bit more frequently. I like the one that I did with Suns Fan, how we had the video feed and stuff. So we may be turning this slowly into kind of a video podcast. So I thank everyone for joining me live here to talk about DAC and just listening to me rap while a lot of this stuff is still fresh in my mind. If you enjoyed the podcast, please find it on iTunes, subscribe there, comment, rate, all that kind of stuff. That really does help me out. I'll link it again in chat. That is directly to the iTunes. And of course, you can also find it on Zyori.tv. That is the home of the podcast where it's hosted, so you can subscribe there. There is just an RSS feed on the right panel if you go to the individual podcast. We'll have the audio version of this baby uploaded ASAP once I'm done, and this video will be up here on YouTube. So until next time, folks, be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other. We'll catch you on the next podcast.